Hello, wonderful people of the interwebs. It is me again, the Blue Princess, 590, here to welcome you all to the fourth episode of my lovely podcast, The Mad Rabblings of a Blue Princess. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about the recently released, at least, yeah, it should be, I think it's still recent, for how, like, the movie's been out for like a week or two. Yeah, that should still count as recent. The new Super Mario Bros. Movie, which I saw earlier this week on Tuesday. And I'm just going to talk about how much I enjoyed this movie and a bunch of stuff that I thought was interesting, and also probably some ideas about what they could do in any sequels. But yeah, I really, really like this movie. Just, it was overall a very solid film with a lot of, I think, very strong jokes, very good, like, gorgeous animation, and the way it sort of, like, adapted the Mario series was top notch. Like, definitely one of the better video game adaptation movies. And I think one thing that really appealed about it, and one thing I've seen a lot appeal like it, is how it accurately adapted the games. Because like there is definitely a trend, especially in Western adaptations of video games, to sort of like distance themselves from the original material in order to tell a more original story. Like that's kind of like why the Sonic movies, from what I've heard, like they take place in the human world and put a lot of focus on these human characters, which a lot of people complain about. And yeah, I get why someone would complain about that. But then again, maybe I might enjoy the human stuff when I watch the Sonic movies. I still need to get around to that. But yeah, this was definitely one that I feel like really tried its best to adapt the games in a way where like it still told a story, but it very much felt like a story you would actually see in the games if they were able to tell a story like this. And first off, let's talk about like one of my favorite things in the movie, which was I really like the relationship between Mario and Luigi. Like it did a really good job at the beginning of selling us on their brotherly bond and sort of getting this idea that like Mario is sort of like of the two, he's definitely the leader. He's the confident one. He's the one who like is more willing to stand out and take an active role. Whereas Luigi is the one who he's the follower, he's the supporter of Mario, but he's definitely a bit cowardly and sometimes doesn't always agree with his brother's more like head on attempts. Because, like, in the beginning of the movie, we see them being approached by their former boss, who's sort of like bullying them over like leaving their jobs with him in order to start their own independent business as plumbers, and his name is Spike. And if I recall correctly, he's definitely a reference to one of the older Mario games or like one of the older spin-off games, which is cool. And it also makes sense that they used to work as part of like a construction crew and stuff. Because I remember when Mario was first introduced, he was like a carpenter or like a constructioner, like in the original Donkey Kong game, they're fighting on top of a construction build, and Mario was first presented as a carpenter. So it makes sense for them to have used to work for Spike, but now are moving on to their own original business as plumbers. Which again, really clever way of using materials from the source material in the game. Like you can definitely tell that like not only was Nintendo like involved with this game, but the people running it definitely seemed to like know their stuff about the series. And but yeah, you can definitely see that like Mario is sort of the leader. He's the active one. He's also the one who very much is like striving for more achievement. To like he wants them to be successful. He wants them to make it up in the world. Whereas Luigi, like he idolizes Mario. He follows him as his brother, and he very much enjoys being with him. And there's also I think the movie kind of hints that there's a chance that Luigi there's a scene with like Mario's parents and his dad, and he says that like he doesn't like how Mario is dragging down his brother Luigi, which makes me wonder if perhaps the movie's hinting at some sort of. I'm probably looking around because like I definitely disagree with the father, and we're definitely not supposed to disagree with his comment about how Mario is dragging down Luigi, because Luigi makes it very clear that this is what he wants to do, and that he wants to work alongside Mario, and that he's not doing anything to bring him down. But it does make me wonder if maybe the movie's hinting at some sort of like greater potential to Luigi, which I definitely think is something I could see them going to in later films. But yeah, I love the relationship between Mario and Luigi. It's very wholesome, very sweet, and like it's very I'd call it the emotional core of the film, which sort of addresses me to one of my bigger problems. And I feel like there wasn't enough screen time between the two, because the movie does do a lot in a short time to make me believe the bond between them and sort of see how powerful their connection is. But they also spend a lot. But once they get to the Mushroom Kingdom, they spend a lot of the film alone and separated, and and I do think that makes sense. Like ultimately, like Luigi basically becomes the damsel in distress in the film, and I think that was a good choice, especially because not only does it apply emotional emphasis on the relationship between Mario and Luigi by making like Luigi Mario sort of like end goal, the one he wants to save. Very good way of like sort of like putting weight on their bond. It's also another way of like sort of getting that typical Mario original formula of Mario coming to save someone from Bowser, but having Luigi be it instead of Peach. I think that works, and I also think it makes sense in the context of the film because like there is a bit more emotional stakes for Mario to have Luigi be the one kidnapped. Because in this film, he's meeting Peach for the first time. He doesn't quite know her as much, so making it his brother who he has to save is another good way to like give Mario the same emotional stakes that he usually has from the game, but applying them in a way that fits this narrative better, and like also generally just fits the movie better. So again, I think it was a good choice to have Luigi sort of be the damsel in distress. I just wish that there were a bit more scenes of the two together. Like I feel like there because they do have because Luigi while he's in prison in Bowser's castle has a flashback to like him and Mario's babies, which oh man, because they use like the baby Mario and Luigi designs for the games, and it looked oh so perfect, just a great way. I love that they chose those designs and the way they use them, the way they look, just super cute, very well animated, just really great job. And like we, of course, Luigi's having a memory of like of baby Mario saving him from bullies as a kid, and sort of that emphasis. And like it really just points to us that idea that like Mario has always been there to protect Luigi, but also sort of because Luigi does have a bit of an arc in this movie. Because I've seen people that criticize the characters for lacking arc, but I definitely say that Mario and Luigi have an arc of their own within the story, and it's sort of like Mario, because Mario throughout the film he wants to become something better. He's tired of being looked down on. He's tired of other people seeing him small because he literally is small, but like people have always spent their life not believing him and looking down on him. And Mario very much has something to prove in this film, and I they do that with an arc about how Mario has to keep how every time Mario falls or every time he falls down, he keeps getting back up to keep fighting, which is very much why like you can see why Peach begins to fall for Mario because Mario himself is that type of person who never gives up, who always pushing forward, who always tries even when he falls. And again, that's a really good arc how Mario continues to do that until he's finally able to become the hero that he's always wanted to be. Like good arc. Whereas Luigi's arc is sort of like him sort of reflecting on his cowardly nature and at the end of the film finally being pushed to become brave enough, which results in the climax where he and Mario defeat Bowser together. And like again, and I think this is good. It's not like super complex or super detailed, but like it's a nice simple arc that works very well for these characters and sort of fits what you would want to see in a Mario movie. I just feel like it could have been a bit stronger if we were given just a few more scenes of Mario and Luigi, either before they get to the Mushroom Kingdom. Not saying that we should spend too much time in Brooklyn instead of the Mushroom Kingdom, because I definitely feel like it makes more sense to put most of the focus in the actual game setting in the parts of the middle that actually takes place in the settings of the games. But like I feel like if they did sort of like the more flashback scenes, more flashbacks, if Luigi had more flashback scenes reflecting his relationship with Mario, then I feel like not only would it help give more weight to their relationship, but it would also like help make Luigi's arc feel a bit stronger. Not saying that I don't think Luigi's arc in this film is good. I do think it's good. I just feel like giving us some more scenes would have really helped it be something a lot more powerful. Right. But yeah, there's a lot of good things about this film, and I love the relationship between Mario and Luigi, but I just wish it got a bit more screen time to help things work a bit better. But yeah, um, but yeah, the general beginning of this film I think is really strong because like it opens with that scene from the trailer of Bowser invading the Ice Kingdom and just utterly destroying it without any hesitation, and it's all really good. Jack Black as Bowser freaking kills it. Like he's just like pitch perfect casting as this very powerful, intimidating villain, but one who's also kind of goofy. Because as we see more of the film, we see Bowser's goofy side in his crush on Peach, which is just such. It's so funny, but it's also just fits so perfectly, like a really good way of adapting this character. And yeah, Jack Black was the perfect voice for this version of Bowser. And yeah, and I really like how they do saying where like Bowser says, "Now who's gonna stop me after he gets the invincible star?" And then it cuts to Mario and Luigi's commercial for the business, and it's just like not only is that like a really good way of transition, but it's also like a really good, it's like really good simple comedy, I'd say. Yeah, I love the commercial, the '90s style commercial they do for Mario and Luigi. Like you can very tell that this is like their first commercial, and that it's like sort of a tight budget thing, but it's got a bunch of like heart to it. It's got sort of that heart you get from like local businesses and people trying their best to make it. And like there's a lot of good references. Like the song they used in it is like a remix of I think the '90s cartoon for Mario and Luigi. And like there's also another part where like Mario and Luigi like are at the end of the commercial they're framing themselves as flying by like basically like lot lying down on like stools and having capes on their back. And of course the capes are a reference to the cape power up from Super Mario World. So again, like really cool reference, really fun. And yeah, I that commercial is just so good, like a lot of good writing. And one thing I will say about the Chris Pratt's performance is that he did a much better job than expected. Like the trailers did that, those trailers did him dirty. Like they did not. Whoever picked was doing the audio for that trailer, like must have had some sort of grudge against Chris Pratt. So they just chose the worst takes to use in that trailer because he gives a much better performance in the film. Like not only does it sound more like he's actually doing a different voice for Mario, whereas the trailers made it sound like it was just his normal voice with a little bit of an accent. This like the accent's a bit more thicker, and it sounds a bit goofier and younger than Chris Pratt's normal voice. And I think it is very much a good voice that works for Mario. But I will say in the commercial, like he and Luigi had like thicker accents, thicker Italian accents for the commercial. And I kind of wish that's how they sounded for the rest of the film, because not only does it sound like they're sound a bit more like Mario and Luigi, but you also get the impression that like it sounds less like the voice actor themselves. And I think that would have worked a bit better. I don't know, maybe it would have been a bit silly because right after the commercial they said, "Hey, were the accents too much," and then Charles Munson's the original voice of Mario, like cameos as the guy playing. Like I think I'm pretty sure he was playing like either the original Mario Brothers game or Donkey Kong, and he cameos telling them that the accent was fine. And like they're definitely doing a bit of a joke there about how like how the accent might have been too much, but I feel like I would have liked a bit more if they kept those thicker accents in the film. I don't know, and while I do think Chris Pratt does a much better performance than I thought it was, I won't lie, I still would have wished they just had Charles Munson play Mario in this movie instead. Like I don't know, maybe I could see like having somebody else play Luigi other than Charles. I could definitely see that, and the choice they picked for Luigi was really good. But I also personally feel like I don't know. I would have rather had just Charles Muntz do the voice of Mario for the whole movie. I really wish they did. I've heard some people say that might have gotten annoying or that might not have worked, but I don't know. I feel like people have been underselling Charles with those statements. But yeah. Again, the opening to the beginning of this film is like really good. It helps establish like Mario and Luigi's characters very well. It establishes Bowser as this imposing threat. Very well done. The comedy is also very good. Really like the gags and just in general, a very strong opening to the film. And I also like this part which Mario and Luigi like they can't get their car to run, so they're like running off to their job, the next lovely job. And I really like this part where we see Mario like basically like he's trying to he's taking all these shortcuts and basically doing the moves you see in the game. So it's a really good way of showing us that Mario's already got some of those athletic abilities that we normally see in the Mario game. Of course, they're not quite on the level of what we see in the game. They're slightly more of a like slightly more realistic parkour variety. But again, it still does a really good job of like showing us all the way at the beginning that Mario sort of like he's on his way to like becoming to having the skills we see him use in the game. Yeah, and like, of course we see Luigi like sort of stepping back because he's not quite as he's definitely not quite as physically coordinated as Mario, but we still see he's able to keep up with him even if he does struggle a lot more. And I also like we see like Mario sort of helping Luigi throughout this situation. Sort of gets this idea that Luigi is a little bit helpless without Mario, which I feel like adds to his arc throughout the film of him sort of like becoming braver and willing to take the risks to sort of coming a bit into his own in order to help us side Mario. Because like when we see in the beginning, like Luigi is always sort of playing like he's always being rescued by Mario. So seeing him at the end help Mario is like really good stuff. But yeah, and I also really like there's this joke earlier where Luigi is like he's bragging about how his mom complimented the commercial to their bully Spike, their former boss. And like, yeah, Luigi would do that. Luigi is that huge dork who's like super proud of those comments and like not sort of realize how like sort of either dorky or silly they sound, but still be confident about that. Like, yeah, that's still Luigi's moment. I really like the scene between Mario and Luigi and the rest of their family. Like, I really like the designs and personalities they gave to Mario and his family. And like it's this very much it's like sort of the typical family you'd see, or like it's kind of like the family you kind of expect from Mario and Luigi, but it's also got like that sort of complicated messiness that real life families have, because you can tell that like Mario's got a bit of a complicated relationship with his dad. You can also see that like his other relatives, look down on him just a little bit. Like, their mom is clearly the one that supports Mario and Luigi the most, but you can also tell the rest of the family looks down on them a little bit, or at least they don't think that Mario really has what it takes to reach the success he wants, which in turn fuels Mario's desire to prove that he's bigger than everybody else thinks he is, because everybody does kind of look down on Mario, and that's established at the beginning of the film. Not just because Mario himself is like literally small, which I think is like kind of a clever thing, because Mario in the games is relatively small. He's like short, so I feel like pouring that into his character in the movies was a good choice. Very much is like sort of taking almost the games and using them in a way to like come up with an actual character arc for Mario, which I think is good. And I do kind of like the way that Mario's family is written, because they're not like bad people, but they're also there's sort of that messiness that you see in a lot of families, and you can especially tell that with his relationship with his dad, where you can tell this very much a son wanting his dad's approval and pride, but also some ways sort of misstepping it, and the dad himself like not realizing how harsh he's really being. Like, they think that they're giving the kid the push they need, but they're not realizing that they're just like hurting the kid's feelings and making it more difficult for them to sex. Which again, good stuff. And then I really like how it continues, how it moves forward from that scene with Mario and Luigi. Like, Brooklyn's being flooded by an emergency by some crazy purse price that I don't think the film ever truly explains completely, but it's probably. But I think the as like at first I thought it was probably something magical or related to the Mushroom Kingdom, but it seems more like it was just some sort of like probably some accident with the plumbing, which stuff like that does happen in real life, so it makes sense. But what's really cool is that Paulina makes a cameo as the mayor of Brooklyn, which is a really cool reference to the Mario Odyssey games, where she is the mayor of New Donk City. But yeah, really cool, like a really cool reference. And like basically as the story progresses, Mario and Luigi like Mario gets in his head that they can prove themselves by stopping this disaster. So he and Luigi go down to the sewers, try to fix the problem, and they end up finding the mysterious green pipe that leads them to the Mushroom Kingdom. Which I think this is sort of an interesting plot point, because like again, it makes sense to have them travel between their world and the Mushroom world through pipes. Is like I think that's like how a lot of like older material, especially Western stuff, sort of portrayed Mario and Luigi as that they were like Brooklyns from the normal world who end up in the Mushroom Kingdom after like finding a mysterious green pipe. Which like the games themselves also have those pipes. They're what you use to find the secret levels or shortcuts throughout the game, and it's how you sort of progress through levels. So yeah, again, sort of doing something that's sort of always been a thing, especially within like other experienced media with Mario, and sort of like again incorporating into the game. But I also like how like the Mario's bunch of the line nobody's been here for years, which implied that somebody must have made these pipes, and that somebody else knew something about it. So I'm curious if we like get a sequel that'll get more into, like if there's like some sort of lore or backstory that we're gonna find out later. Because the movie definitely feel like it's hinting towards stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of that. But so yeah, after Mario and Luigi get sucked into the magical green pipe that's connecting them to the Mushroom Kingdom, they of course there's a scene where like Mario tries to like make Luigi feel safe by saying that nothing can hurt them as long as they stay together, and then bam, they get separated. Which again, really good way of like heightening the emotional stakes of the story, as well as making things a bit more difficult for Luigi and setting up the climax of the film. Really good, nice setup and payoff. Just like I know I'm probably praising like basic stuff at this point, but I always feel like it's good idea to praise what you think works well in a story, especially if other people aren't giving it that fair shake. Like I don't know, I just think it's like a good idea if you see something good in a story to acknowledge that what it's doing is right. You know what I mean? Anyway, so yeah, Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom. Luigi ends up in like basically a destroyed lava land, which is like part of Bowser's territory, and like basically like Mario runs into a Toad who is I gotta look up the guy's name, but I'm like still surprised that he's the voice of Toad because he sounds so different. Like I've heard his stuff in other WUF, and he sounds so different than his Toad. Okay, yeah. So in the movies, Toad is played by Keegan Michael Key, and like that really surprised me because I've heard his normal voice and other stuff, and he sounds completely different from his Toad voice. Like this dude, sorry for the coughing. Bleh. Like I don't know, maybe they did some sort of voice filters or something that changes voice and recording. Maybe he's just that good at coming up with different voices. I prefer to believe in the latter, that he's just really talented when it comes to doing voices, because again I like to assume the best. But yeah, anyway, Toad, I kind of like how they sort of characterize Toad in this game as this sort of like weird, this sort of like bizarro adventurer Toad who just sort of like doing his sort of own thing. And like, of course, he has experiences being out in the world, but he's also very hyperactive, and he's very like they sort of take that sort of like shrill, annoying stuff, the annoying voice. Well, no, he doesn't have a shrill, annoying voice in the game, but like he sort of had in the Mario games, Cho sort of has this very manic and excitable energy that they kind of incorporate into this film, but in a slightly more comedic way. Well, it is still comedic in the games, but here's slightly more like a sort of oddball personality, and I kind of like this interpretation of mode of Toad, where he's like this very confident, very loud spoken, and sort of active person, but he's also very quirky and silly. Because like you could tell that he's been on his own sort of adventures. Because again, he's got camping equipment on him. He's been experienced in the forest and he definitely knows stuff. But yeah, he ends up sending Mario to Princess Peach in order to get help to save his brother. And I really like the scene where like they were well, first off, I really like how they show the Mushroom Kingdom. Like you can tell they're taking a lot of elements from the games, both in like what we've seen of the Mushroom Kingdom previous games, but also like element gameplay stuff and making it sort of a natural part of the world. Like there's like of course there's the like they have pipes they use as a travel system there from the game, of course, but they've also got like the moving like the moving what's the term? Moving platforms, right? Duh. They've also got the moving platforms in the movie too. They're sort of like parts of the construction. Like everything is just like a lot of really clever stuff. A lot of stuff where like you can tell that these people making this movie are familiar with the games and are trying their best to take those elements from the games and make them part of the world in the movie, but also make it feel natural. Like again, good stuff. Really like it. I really like how they basically like they use like the iron blocks with coins as like sort of ATM stuff. Like I think that's a clever thing. But yeah, I also really like the gag where they finally get to the princess's castle, which is like on a hill, which is, nice reference to like the castle from Nintendo 64. Like cuz that one was also like on a hill, a grassy hill that you could explore, which like yeah, cool stuff. I like that. But I also really like the gag when they get to the castle and like the guard toads like aren't letting them in and they're trying to make a lie that the princess is in another castle, which is of course reference to the Infinite Slime from the first game, which I think is like, cute reference. I really like the joke, but I also like the part how like Toad is able to help Mario get in past the guards by basically like making food for the guard toads to distract him. Because at first you think he's gonna hit them with his frying pan, like in cartoons or Tangled, but no, he just cooked with them. Which, I like that stuff, like nice, clever humor, sort of like sort of like those screw the audience jokes from The Simpsons. Just good stuff. But yeah, and then we later get a scene with Peach basically having a war council with the Toads. And one thing that I want to point out is one of the Toads, like he's basically like he definitely seems like the smarter one of the Toads. He's like this blue Toad, and he's got this deep voice. And I think it would have been better if they made him Toadstool for the Mario games, because Toadstool has been sort of presented as he's like the um, wise older Toad who's like sort of there to offer like he's like Peach's advisor. Like I think he would have worked better. I think instead of just having a random blue Toad with sunglasses who has a deeper voice than everyone, if they made that Toadstool, that would have worked much better. Again, it's taking elements from the games and using them in the movie in the way that feels nicer organic. Where like because like people who aren't quite exactly with familiar with Mario are like, okay, God, clearly this is like a wise older Toad, probably like an advisor to Princess Peach. Probably one who's very much in the government officials, and like you could get that even with just the normal blue toad they use in the movie. But if they use Toadstool, then like again, still applies. But for people who are more familiar with the Mario will be like, oh, that's Toadstool. That makes perfect sense for him to be in this position, for him to work in this. But yeah, I don't know. They didn't use Toadstool. I think that's a point. I think Toadstool would have worked perfect for this scene and this character. But it still works. Still works for fine for what they did. I just think it would have been better. But yeah, I do kind of like it how they take it seriously, and I really like how Peach's plan is like to make a deal with the Kong Kingdom and to like sort of get their army to help them, because the Toads themselves, they aren't combat focused. Again, as they point out, they're adorable. Like and even though in games we do see some Toads that can fight back, of course the overall percentage of the Toads and their own possesses like people who need help and need being defended. So of course it makes sense for them, and I like how it's like they specifically are working with Donkey Kong, because it's not just like, oh, these are Nintendo characters, but no, because like Donkey Kong has always been a Mario spin-off, and Mario, as we know from the original Donkey Kong game, has history with Donkey Kong and these characters, and they've always been established as part of the Mario world. So using them in this movie as the people from the arcade that they join force with is good. I also like how the blue toad with the deep serious voice is like their king is that's will that I don't even think they'll help us, Peach. like their king is a madman, so you get this idea that there's like history between these two kingdoms, which is like nice and stuff. Like I like it how the story itself does take itself seriously. It's not like just like poking fun of itself or making jokes, and I do like how you get this feeling that this is a world with its own history and its own people and its own sort of like politics and circumstances. Again, really good stuff. But yeah, I like that scene with the war council meeting, and I also sort of like the first meeting between Mario and Peach, where Mario's like, "Wait, you're a human?" And she's like interested in that because, of course, though, like I think it's probably implied that Peach herself is a human. Maybe they could reveal something else later, but she's like, of course, interested in Mario because again, she's lived her whole life surrounded by the Toads. She is like the only human in this area. So of course she'd be fascinated by seeing another human, which I think is why she takes interest in Mario specifically and why she is willing to help and work with him. Because again, she's never met someone like herself. So I think it's very much wanting to like interact with more humans and sort of like meet someone who's like herself. And I also and like again, good stuff. And I really like the sort of training scene between her and Mario, where like if Mario's gonna come with her, if she's gonna let Mario come with her on a dangerous task to like get the Koopas and defeat Bowser, he's got to prove to himself that he's got what it takes. And this is the scene where we get introduced to the power ups. I do kind of like this gag where Mario, like, you know, he hates mushrooms. He really doesn't think they taste bad. And the first power up he gets is a mushroom, which he has to eat in order to grow in size. Which again, I think that's like a clever joke, like pretty nice way, like, it's not a very much in your face joke, but it's one that works well. And I don't know if there's anything beforehand to establish that Mario doesn't like mushrooms, but I do think it's like a clever little joke to make up with, sort of taking the conventions of the game and like making a joke about them without poking fun of them. But yeah, and like Mario Force gets his first power with the mushroom, he sort of learns around the rules, and of course he's struggling a lot with this obstacle course that Princess Peach is going through. And I'm pretty sure the obstacle course, from what I can see, seems to be a reference to like the level generators you can make in the Mario Build Your Own Level games. I forget what they're called. I own one of them, but I barely played it because I'm just I don't know. I have a bad habit where I get a game, I play it for a while, and then I just drop it. That I have a bad habit. I have don't be like me, kids. But stick with one game, play it until you finish it, then get a new one. Don't just keep buying new games over and over again, because otherwise you're gonna pile up a backlog with a ton, and I mean a ton of unfinished games. But yeah, back to the movie. I remember hearing one criticism where they said it was weird that like the beginning of the film like establishes in Brooklyn establishes that Mario is athletic and that he can like do these different Mario Kart things, but then he's struggling with the obstacles in Mario Kingdom. And I feel like some people are sort of missing the point. Like the first scene is to establish that Mario is athletic in the scene in Brooklyn to show that he does have it takes, but the obstacle course in the Mushroom Kingdom is clearly more difficult than that. There's clearly different rules and styles and stuff. So the first scene is there to establish that Mario has these athletic skills, and then this test is sort of meant to push Mario to show that like, well, Mario definitely has the skills from the real world to help him in the Mushroom Kingdom. He still has far ways to grow and improve. And it also plays a part into Mario's character arc because while Mario particularly gets beaten and loses in the obstacle course, like he keeps failing, he doesn't give up. He's trying and trying the entire night, and he almost makes it until the very end. And though he doesn't, he fails to like complete the obstacle course completely. Peach is like she's still listening to him with because one, Mario has shown like very good improvement and growth. Which again, though, I don't think Mario would have been able to improve that quickly over one night if he didn't already have like some athletic skills from the real world. So again, though, I don't think it's contradiction. I think it makes sense. And I also think, like, again, it's another way of showing this element of, like, that Mario is constantly, like, he doesn't give up. He'll keep trying over and over again, no matter how many times he loses, no matter how many times he gets pounded, no matter how many times he lands his ass. He's going to keep getting back up and try again. And now I'm just realizing that that's also, like, a part of the game itself, because a part of, like, video games and, like, platform games is the fact that, like, you're going to lose multiple times. You're going to get your ass handed to you, and you're going to fail. But again, you have to keep trying over and over again. Keep pressing continue. Don't give up until you finish it. And it's like, that's actually really clever. Like, sort of like taking this basic sort of element of the gameplay, you know, the fact that you have to, like, press continue, keep trying even when you lose and keep going up. Like, sort of the way, something the player themselves can relate to and incorporate it as part of Mario's character arc in the film. Like, I didn't realize this element. That's actually, like, really clever. I don't think anybody, I haven't heard anybody else point this out about the film, but I think that this is just like a really cool element now that I'm thinking about it. And like, yeah, this is good stuff. But yeah, and like, again, Mario, it's very clear that Peach is like letting Mario join her. And because he's human, but also because she sees something in him from the fact that he kept trying over and over again, no matter how many times he loses. Like, she sees a spiting fear that makes Mario an asset to her. And I think this is also what helps Peach sort of develop, because like we definitely get a feeling that Peach is like sort of developing feelings for Mario as they go on this quest, and it's specifically because Mario is this person who never gives up and keeps trying over and over again, no matter how many times he falls down. Which again, so like, and Toad also joins in on the quest. And I really love the joke where Toad calls himself Mario's best friend, but he's like, "Are we? Are we really?" I don't know. It's really good, and I also love Toad's line about how he promises that he'll protect Peach and he won't let her get hurt, which is like, again, it's really cute and it's adorable. And I do like the fact that like Peach does sort of take him seriously. Like she is humoring Toad a little bit, but she's also like very much like giving him respect. Which again, really good characterization, really good establishment. And I really like the way they sort of handle the power ups in the film, because we see the thing with the mushroom power up where Mario eats it and he's able to grow big and stuff. But yeah, but we later see the fire scene during this monster scene as they're going around to the Kong Kingdom, where Peach, like, she sort of like, she touches it, and then the fire from the flower exits, and then the fire comes out of the flower into her, giving her the power up. Which again, like, really good way of doing it, and like a way of like making it so that it's not like something you eat, like with the mushroom. Instead, it's like something you touch, and then the energy goes into you. Like, again, clever stuff. And I really like the scene where Peach explains her backstory to Toad, to Mario, where she explained that she didn't originate from the Mushroom Kingdom. She was found, she was a baby, she crawled through the pipes. Nobody knows where she came from, but the Toads took her in. I noticed that one of the groups of the Toads that took Peach in is a blue Toad, so I think the implication is that he's like that sort of like older blue Toad with the deeper voice, that he was one of the same ones that helped raise Peach. Which again I like, and I really like how Peach explains why she's so loyal to the Toads, that they took her in and they've been their family, and how she herself, they were the ones who made her a princess. Like, she wasn't born into royalty. The Toads appointed her the title of princess based on the skills she showed as she grew up. And like, she basically proved herself that she was a warrior to be a princess, which I think that's a really cool idea for Peach, that she wasn't born princess, but instead she came to the Mushroom Kingdom and proved herself worthy of being princess. The Toads named her their princess because that I'm repeating myself, sorry, but yeah, I really like this idea, and I also like how it's like definitely stuff we can set up for a future game. And I really like how it sort of establishes Peach's character herself as someone who is like curious about her upbringing, wanting to know where she came from, but also wanting to see the world beyond where she lives, because she's with Mario that there is a vast galaxy out there, that there are several other worlds. Which, like, again, is a reference, of course, to the Mario Galaxy games. But, like, when I remember seeing that line in the trailer, I thought that this was setting up, like, Rosalina was going to be in this film. And, well, maybe it's setting up Rosalina for a future movie. I definitely was expecting this to lead to something with her in this movie. It was a little bit disappointed she wasn't in the movie. But if they're saving her for a sequel or something, I think that's a good choice. Like, and I'd really love to see her in future movies. Yeah, and I also like it how it basically like shows the connection between her and Mario. And I really like the part where like Mario is like, he says, "Hey, maybe I can show you to Brooklyn someday." And I really like the gag where he makes how like, we have turtles, and where he explains, where she asks, "Are there turtles in your world?" And he's like, "Yeah, but we keep them in pets." And she's like, "What? No, really?" That's because it's bumbling to her, because she's lived her whole life with seeing like turtles, because the Koopas are basically turtles, as like enemies that they have to fight. So either of them just being normal pets is like a bizarre idea to her, which is like, I think is just really cool, this sort of like idea of stuff. And again, though, more building stuff to the relationship between Mario and Peach, which again, really cool stuff. Really like the stuff they do with Peach's backstory, like adding this mystery that we can see in future movies. And I also really love how they use like the baby Peach design for the games, but they give her this adorable blanket cape. And it's just like, oh, it's so cute. I love that stuff. Just extra details, just make the whole thing look visually cool. And I really like how like we later get another scene with Bowser in which he reveals that he stole the star with the intent of using it in order to like persuade Peach into marrying him. And I really like the juxtaposition how Bowser's like talking to his minions trying to get up, and he's like, "And now I can finally marry Princess Peach and have my fairy tale wedding." And everybody's like, "I'm sorry, what? Did you say that? But that?" And it's just like, oh, again, it's really funny. Again, there's a juxtaposition between this brutish tyrant that is Bowser compared to like that softer, hopeless romantic. And I really like the juxtaposition. Makes for a lot of good comedy, and Jack Bell kills it. Again, he's really sells this aspect of Bowser's character. And I really love how his like men are like still supportive of him, even though they think it's a bit weird. They're like, okay. And I also like how they still establish that even though Bowser, on some level, there is that sort of dorky, hopeless romantic, they still said that, like, yeah, he's still bad at it, because he's basically like, if she doesn't agree to marry him, I'll threaten to destroy everything she knows in love with the star. And it's like, yeah, that's sign of psycho, creepy stalker behavior. Yep, Bowser, you're still a bad guy. Like, no wonder she doesn't want to marry you. And I also like how everybody's like, but she hates you. Why would she want to marry you? Like, all the Koopas are like that. She's like, yeah, I know Peach hates me, but I still love her more. And it's like, that's funny and cute. But when you think about it, it's also kind of creepy, which again works because Bowser's a villain. All really good stuff. Really good stuff. And I also like the gag where, like, when Bowser's minions talk back to him, he uses fire breath to kill them, to turn them into like a Bone Koopa. You know, this I forget the name of that. I'm not gonna look that up because I don't think I really should. But like, yeah. But again, really kind of cool way of establishing where those guys come from. That they're basically just minions, Koopas torn, burnt alive by Bowser's fire. You know, good, nice comedy stuff. But I also really love how, like, when Bowser hears that Peach is going on a quest with Mario, he's immediately jealous of Mario, and he's like, his biggest fear is the fact that, like, is that Mario is going to swoop Peach off her feet, super, and take her away from him. Well, you know, he thinks that's taken away from him. Like, I love how Bowser's hatred for Mario is basically stemming from jealousy over Peach liking Mario more than him. Like, again, that's a really cool gag. That's like such a perfect way to sort of explain the rivalry between Mario and Bowser by making it just this like jealousy over the princess. That Bowser is sort of like this insecure simp who sees Mario as the threat to his crush. Again, like, that is a really nice way of establishing their dynamic. Really love that stuff. But yeah, and of course this also leads to a scene in which he brings in Luigi because he can clearly tell that there's a relationship between him and Mario. So he basically like tries to interrogate Luigi for information. And I love this guy where he's like, where Bowser's like, does where like he basically like, do princesses find Mario attractive? And Luigi's like, they do if they have good taste. And it's just like, because one is like Luigi being like supportive of Mario. He's like, yeah, if they got good taste, they would love my brother and find him attractive. But it's also just really funny. And I love how it just pisses Bowser off to no end. He is a simp in this movie. And it's great. It is hilarious. And I love that this rivalry is just really stems from Bowser being this insecure, jealous little simp. Really good stuff. Really funny, but also really engaging and stuff. And I also there's this other gag where like where while Luigi is in prison with all the other people, including the penguins, that there's a Luma, like, you know, the stars from Mario, and it's basically like saying a bunch of depressing stuff like, oh, in the end we're all gonna die, life is meaningless, we're all gonna die, yay! And like the joke is supposed, because it's this cutesy design and cutesy voice, so it's just supposed to these like gruesome and nihilistic thoughts, which again is really funny. But it also makes sense because, like, if you play the games, the Lumas like ask Mario to feed them with Starbits until they burst and create new galaxies, and they're all like super happy about it. So again, though, it makes sense. Like, yeah, the Lumas in the games are kind of morbid, death crazy things. So like having them like act this way in the movie makes a lot of sense. But I also think it's really funny how like the King Penguin, who's also in prison, is like, enough, we're depressed already. Stop talking about the depressing shit, dude. Calm the fuck down. Ah. And I love it. I love it. The voice actor for the Penguin does this. His performance is really good, and it really adds to the comedy and stuff. Just like really good work, really funny. This film, like, I definitely don't think it's like perfect or anything, and I get why people make sort of the criticisms about the pacing, but I think it's all just like a bunch of I don't know. I think this movie's like really funny, very entertaining, like just overall a very solid, well put together film. And oh yeah, one more aspect I want to talk about the film that I don't think I have is like so this film does use a lot of like licensed music. There's basically licensed music, some original music, and then some reorchestrations or like recreations of the music from the Mario movie. And I love how they sort of like again use the music from the Mario movies from the movie. Sorry, they use the music from the Mario games in the movie. I really like that. I think some of the original music they have is not too bad. And well, I did like the licensed music they used in this film because again they used General Law's song choices that I really like, and I think some of their implications, some things worked really well. Like at the end of the movie, they play Mr. Blue Sky, and I think that worked really well. However, it was later revealed that there were actually a bunch of more original music composed for the movie, some of which is even like remixes or reorchestrations of music from the actual games that they made for the film that were cut out in favor of the licensed music, and I don't think that was a good idea. They should have stuck with the music they made for this film because I think it works much better than the licensed music, and some of them, of course, are like references to music from the actual Mario games, which would have worked really well. But yeah, eventually they make it to Kong Kingdom, where we meet, which is probably my favorite character in this film, Donkey Kong. And I really love how they portray Donkey Kong in this film because he's just he's this douchebag jock type dude, and it works so well. It is like a perfect portrayal and characterization of Donkey Kong's character, and a really good way of setting up this sort of rivalry between him and Mario. Because, like, again, Mario has to beat Donkey Kong so that the king, who is Cranky Kong, who I think is also, like, I kind of like the way he's sort of portrayed in this, like, not the same way in the games in which he's just sort of this cranky old man, where he's still kind of cranky in this film, but he's also very much, he is like legit a king who's like sort of used to be having power, and they sort of incorporate that in a way that I think is good. And I really sort of like the way they do the relationship between Cranky and Donkey Kong, where he is like, he can tell that his son's very powerful stuff, but he's also kind of embarrassed of Donkey Kong because he's this massive showboat. And while Donkey Kong sort of like justifies action by saying that, like, hey, the people like me, they like my showboatiness, and they like my dramatic and stuff. The king is also like, he very much seems that he thinks on some level that Donkey Kong is kind of a joke, and he definitely, I feel like there's this case of like he thinks that Donkey Kong isn't quite living up to his responsibilities as much as he should. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me like interpreting that way or overthinking this, but that's sort of how it came across to me while watching the film. But yeah, I love this portrayal of Donkey Kong. He is so funny as this douche, and I think like casting shoot, I'm forgetting the name. Give me 1 second. They have Seth Rogen play Donkey Kong, and I honestly think he was the perfect choice for Donkey Kong. Like, yeah, he using his sort of like standard voice he normally uses in like movies and stuff, but like, I actually think it's better they use his normal voice instead of changing his voice, because his normal voice works for Donkey Kong so well. Like, I'd say this is in terms with Jack Black as Bowser as like perfect casting. Like, he plays Donkey Kong amazingly. He does such a good job at portraying Donkey Kong as this douchebaggy jock frat boy, but also making him very likable and very entertaining to watch. And just like, probably low key I might have liked his performance as Donkey Kong more than Jack Black as Bowser, because I was always just, there was a huge smile on my face whenever Donkey Kong was on screen in his interaction with Mario the best. I also really love the fight between him and Donkey Kong, where Mario, no matter how many times he gets his ass beat, no matter how many times he beats it, he keeps getting back up. He keeps like trying to find ways to beat Donkey Kong, and in the end, once he gets the cat suit, he's actually able to finally take Donkey Kong down. And I do like how they kind of use the cat suit, because the cat suit is very much afraid of something that helps make Mario a lot more agile and quick, which I think is a good counter to like Donkey Kong's like strong, brutish fighting style. Another thing I really like is that they do a lot of cameos, and I liked how the Donkey Kong Kingdom was presented. Again, a lot of references both to the Donkey Kong games in general, but I also really love how like they show us right off the back that this place is sort of like built around the carts and stuff, which again is set for the scene after Mario wins and gets the army. But yeah, and I really love how we see different characters. Because I love the part where like where the crowd is cheering on Donkey Kong, and then Cranky Kong's like, "Okay, everybody, stop it, stop! You're being loud." He's like, "I'm talking to you, Diddy." And we cuts back to Diddy, who's like still cheering for Donkey Kong, and next to him is Dixie, and I think another one of the Kongs, and it's like, oh, it's really good. It's really cool that they gave Diddy not just like a cameo, but he actually gets a full spoken line, and he's actually pointing out. And I love it how he's like, he is the big like Donkey Kong fanboy. He's the one constantly cheering him on and stuff. And like, you can tell that there's already probably a relationship between him and Donkey Kong and Cranky, because Cranky like knows his name. Like, I don't think a king would just know any random stuff. He's like, oh no, he knows Diddy, and there's definitely sort of a relationship. So like, and I think they already confirmed that there's gonna be like a Donkey Kong film too, and I'm super looking forward to that because they already established Donkey Kong as this really fun character that I enjoyed watching. So I can't wait to see more of him, and I also really hoping to see the other Donkey Kong characters like Diddy and Dixie. Again, really looking forward to what they have after this film, because this film was really good. But yeah, like I also really love how like they use this fight to sort of establish the relationship between Mario and Donkey Kong, which is this very antagonistic frenemies relationship where they're not straight up enemies like Bowser and Mario, but they're not quite friendly as like Mario and Luigi are. Like, it's very much a friendly relationship. They very much argue and bitter each other, and it's very clear that Donkey Kong, like, he's picking on Mario because he's upset that he lost the fight. Which again, really good stuff. Again, it fits Mario's character. It fits Donkey Kong's character a lot, but it also makes sense that they would have this sort of like antagonistic frenemies relationship, because again, if you remember the origins of the original Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong was Mario's first antagonist. Like, they were enemies. So again, taking that sort of element and incorporating this into the film to give them this like rivalry slash frenemies relationship, perfect stuff. Really like the way everybody's characterized in the film. Really like how it uses all the characters. Just a bunch of really good stuff. And once they get the army, this culminates in a scene in which we find out that the Kong army fight primarily using carts, not just any carts, but carts from the Mario Kart game. So Mario, Peach, and everybody else makes their own cart suits, their own like carts. From like Mario's got Peach, and Peach has the bike. Mario's got a standard like cart, and Luigi, of course, got like this big, massive cart with its own like barrel rockets. And I really love the part where they're all racing together and Donkey Kong looks at Mario's like, I hate you. And Mario's just like, yeah. Good stuff. And I really have like Toad's got like this like big, like sort of fancy muscle car thing, sort of just as though his like small nature, like really good stuff. And I really love the sequence in which where like they're all driving down Rainbow Road, and then Bowser intercepts with his own army, and then this big cart battle. The whole thing is just like a bunch of fun to watch. Again, really good scene. This film is just like a total blast to watch from him. And I really love the fights with the cars. Again, like a lot of creative stuff. I love how like the Rainbow Road gets broken. The way they incorporate all the different like attacks and stuff from the games, all really good stuff. And I love how like there's this Koopa, this blue Koopa, who's like he is like dead set, got his eyes on Mario. He's got this crusher car. He's like, I'm gonna crush you. I'm gonna take you down. He's like, this is personal for him. We have no why, but he's taking it super personal, and it's so much fun. And I love how like Mario and Donkey Kong eventually work together to take him down. But even when his car's destroyed, he's like, you think I'm done yet? You won't get away from me! And then he turns into the blue shell from the Mario Kart games. He basically like does like a suicide attack to take down Mario. This motherfucker is a hater. He saw Mario and he took offense to his existence. So now he's going to like throw away his entire life just to take down Mario and Donkey Kong. And it's just like, oh, it's so good. And I really like how the dramatic stakes basically like the Kong army gets captured. Mario and Donkey Kong have disappeared. They are weakened. They are down. It is sort of like a very hopeless and depressing scene. It all works really well. It's like sort of that like the low point in which a lot of movies do, especially animated kids movie, where there's like a low point for the characters in the third act. But I like how they do it in this way because it's very much the characters like taking a legit hit down from the antagonist instead of like forced character drama. Like it's not like the third act breakup you see in a lot of other films. It's like the characters like actually taking a hit, actually taking a loss, and trying their best to like recover from it. Like good stuff. What happens next is basically Mario and Donkey Kong get trapped inside a giant eel, which again I like how they bring up the eels because there's like a running joke you'll see with a lot of people like online where they talk about how like the eels, especially from like Mario 64, like scare the crap out of them as a kid. Like just one of those childhood classic experience where like you play a Mario game and if there's a giant eel underwater, you're gonna get scared of as a kid. Just gonna happen. So I really like how that's what the Mario and Donkey Kong get trapped of. Bowser successfully invades the Mushroom Kingdom and blackmails Peach into marrying him by using the Superstar. And Luigi and the rest of Bowser's prisoners are formally invited to Bowser's wedding as sacrifices. Uh-oh. But yeah, I really like the scene where Mario and Donkey Kong are just arguing while trapped inside the eel, specifically because I really love this joke where like how Mario's like, I'm gonna lose my brother, how do I feel? And like Donkey Kong's like, at least you're not gonna die with your dad thinking you're joking. He's like, my dad does think it's joke. And then Donkey Kong's like, your dad's right, you are a joke. And then they just keep arguing and bickering, and it's like, that is so funny because you think there's gonna be a tender moment between Mario and Donkey Kong. It's like, nope, Donkey Kong just gonna keep being a dick, and I'm like, yeah. Now that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I want. Funny as hell, and I really love how they finally managed to get out of the eel by using the rocket barrel on Donkey Kong's destroyed cart to blast their way out. And then in general, I just love the sequence that follows where like Peach she snucks in an ice flower and uses it to fight Bowser. It's like yeah, clever to use ice flower because Bowser fights by like shooting fireballs. So what's the counter to fire? Ice. Brilliant. Boom. I also love the joke where Peach is like, did you honestly think I'd marry a monster? And Bowser's just like, kinda, yeah. Yeah, I love it. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention is I really like how Kamek is sort of characterized in this movie. Like, whoever they got him to do the voice is a fantastic voice for character. I also love how he's basically like the supportive mom friend to Bowser, like always giving encouragement. And I love how like Bowser does a rehearsal for his proposal to Peach, and Kamek is playing the role as Peach. And he's just like, it's so funny just how seriously he takes it, and how like he generally wants to encourage Bowser. Like you can tell that Kamek, like, because in the games it's like Kamek raised Bowser, and you can tell that Kamek is basically like Bowser's parent in this movie. The way they don't say it in the film, but you can tell by their interactions and Kamek's characterization that that's what it is. Oh, and there's one other thing I forgot to mention earlier. So Jack Black has a song in this movie as Bowser, which is basically like this rock ballad of Bowser talking about his feelings for Peach, basically called Peaches. And I really like this song. It's hilarious and really good. But man, I wish it was longer, if I want to be honest. I felt like it was a bit too short. Like that is one of my other big complaints in this film, besides the fact that I wish there was more screen time between Mario and Luigi, is that I wish Bowser's song was longer. But yeah, back to it. So eventually, like Mario and Donkey Kong make it back. They grab a bunch of power ups. Seeing Donkey Kong with the flower top is just really good design. And I love the power ups Mario uses to fight Bowser. And I really love the reunion scene between Mario and Luigi in which they finally get back together. One thing that I kind of wish the movie film done, which like this is an actual problem, that's just a me thing that I thought would have been cool if they did. Is like we see King Boo like at Bowser's wedding, and I think it would have been really cool if like when Luigi like gets out when he's free from the prison, if like he bumps into King Boo and then that pisses off King Boo to set up like a future like antagonist, because like King Boo is sort of like Luigi's Bowser, since he's like the antagonist of most of the Luigi games. So I thought that would have been neat if like there's like this joke where Luigi bumps into King Boo and that causes King Boo to like become Luigi's arch enemy. I don't know. Like, look, this isn't a criticism of the film. I'm not saying this is something they had to do or something was anything necessary. I just think this would have been a cool idea. Cool idea, like a really good joke. But yeah, I love the reunion between Mario and Luigi. Very heartfelt, very wholesome. So good to see these guys again. And I love how what allows Bowser to break free of his ice prison, and he's just so pissed off that like Peach is Mario is like talking to Peach. Like he's just so jealous of Mario, and it's the best. And I love how he's just okay. You know what? Fuck it, blow up the entire Mushroom Kingdom, and he gets like this giant um bomb. Is it bomb? No, it's not bomb. What is the name? You know, like those giant like enemies in Mario. They're like those like giant missiles with an angry face. He gets one of those things and it comes up and he sends it to like to attack the village. So Mario in Tanuki suit, he tries his best to get rid of the thing. And it's like he can't stop it. He can't seem to get his attention. So what he does is he flies into the eye of the thing, pissing it off so much that it chases Mario down. So then he flies away and then he guides the giant missile to the green pipe that brought him and Luigi to the Mushroom Kingdom, which causes a chain reaction, which the whole pipe just swallows in Bowser's entire floating castle with everybody else in it. And now Bowser, Mario, Luigi, Peach, Donkey Kong, they're all in Brooklyn, and the fight continues. And Luigi and Bowser is just like, he is fucking pissed. He is just so angry at Mario that he just goes on an all out brawl and beats the crap out of Mario. And like Mario's like, he is down. He is legit like struggling. He doesn't know if he can get back up. And so like Peach and Donkey Kong and Toad are just trying their best to fight back against Bowser in Brooklyn, and then Mario, he comes back, still beaten, still trying his best to fight Bowser, and it seems like he's gonna get toast, only for Luigi to show up, finally grabbing the courage to stand up and do his right, and protects Mario from the flames by using the sewer gates as a shield. And it's just like, oh, finally they're working together, and then Luigi brings back to what he said about Mario, how as long as they're there, nothing can hurt them, and then they steal the superstar from Bowser, and that's when shit goes wild! They just like beat the absolute crap out of Bowser, doing all these crazy moves, flips, different attacks that you're familiar with the series, just powered by the superstar. The music goes crazy. They're covered in colors. Everybody else can see them. Everybody else in Brooklyn, including Mario and Luigi's family, sees Mario and Luigi just beating the crap out of this monster and saving the day, saving all of Brooklyn from this horror, this beast. And I love the different attacks. I think it would have been even cooler if like they had Mario and Luigi, like if they grabbed the classic hammers you see them use, especially like in the RPGs, and use that to attack Bowser when the super phone, or if like Mario use like fire attacks and Luigi use lightning attacks, like which are also from the Mario and Luigi games. I don't know. Like I get why they don't do that. I get why they stick to just simple like kicks and punches and stuff, and a bunch of cool teams attacks, but like I think it would have been even cooler if they brought back more references from the game. Like I can see not doing like the fire and lightning stuff because that might come over. Like I'm sure they could have worked in the hammers into this scene, but yeah, still really amazing fight. Love how colorful it is. Love the teamwork between Mario and Luigi. I love this specifically them working together that allows them to finally beat Bowser, and I love how they finish him with the gosh darn Rider kick. Oh man, like somebody knew what they're doing. There's a Kamen Rider fan somewhere on Illumination or somebody working on this film because they fit in that reference, and it is like, Oh, it is just the coolest. Oh, so good. Like the best part of the whole film, that final fight, just mwah, mwah, chef's kiss, baby. Yeah. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Oh, sorry. I know I'm geeking out. I know I'm acting like a huge loser, but I don't care because that ending, so good. Love the final fight. Love how Mario's family, like, they're all cheering for him and Mario and Luigi. Even Spike, the guy who's bullying them, was like, "Give it up for Mario and Luigi," and I love it. I love it when stuff where even the bully characters come around and cheer on the heroes in the final hour. That's so good. But yeah, the film basically ends up to that. They shrink Bowser, put him in a jar, like insert your lame dirty jokes or whatever, blah 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 blah. And of course there's a joke about how, like, see, I told you I'd get you a pet turtle. Love that gag. And I just love it. And it basically, the film basically ends with reveal that Mario and Luigi are now living in the Mushroom Kingdom, doing their stuff, and like, yeah, it's like really good stuff. Like, Mario and Luigi have finally achieved the success they wanted, and now they're moving forward in their new lives in the Mushroom Kingdom. Really good stuff. There's also an end credit teaser for Yoshi, which, from what I've heard and from what I remember, is also a reference to the ending stinger of that old 2000, that American 2000 Godzilla film. Which, like, yeah, I definitely, that does seem familiar. That does match up. But yeah, it seems like they're setting up Yoshi for the next film. Bit weird, this end credit scene, when we already saw a group of Yoshis early in the film. But then again, the theme is also like hinting at Yoshi in Brooklyn, so that might also lead to some new interesting stuff. Again, this movie was really fun. It's not perfect or anything, though I don't agree with some of the criticism people have. Like, people criticize the movie for being a bit too fast paced, not having enough slow time. But I feel like the faster pace worked better for the film. It helped give the film this sort of energy it really wanted. And I feel like if the film slowed down a bit, it wouldn't be that fun. I also think it's definitely one of the better Illumination films. Like, not only do I think it sort of like has a better feel to it thanks to like taking the Mario iconography and stuff, but I generally think like the comedy's a bit better. It wasn't quite as like juvenile as some of the stuff you see in like the Minion movies. Less like poop and fart jokes and a bit more like just general good comedy, good slapstick. But yeah, this movie was great. I can't wait to see what they're gonna do in future movies. I really love the relationship between Mario and Luigi. I thought the arcs they gave Mario and Luigi themselves were very strong, with like Mario like sort of like continuing to persevere in the name of defeat and keep getting back up in order to achieve the success and spectacle you want, and Luigi finally gaining the courage he needs to stand alongside Mario so that together they can save the day. I loved Donkey Kong. I loved Seth Rogen's performance of him. The dynamic between him and Mario is fantastic. I cannot wait to see more of Donkey Kong. Bowser, of course, was fantastic. He was a great villain. Really fun character to watch, but also super funny thanks to the jokes. Jack Black, again, absolutely killed it. I just wish this song was longer. And I'm very interested to see what they're going to continue doing with Peach in future movies, if this gets a sequel, which I definitely think it will, because it made a ton of money and it was super successful, so I definitely think we'll get more. And I hope they lean more into the video game stuff. And I hope we see other characters. Like, I would love it if, like, Wario and Luigi show up in the sequel film, made their backstories that, like, they were these rivals to Mario and Luigi. They were constantly trying to chase their coattails. But Mario and Luigi, like, have no idea who they are. Like, their rivalry is completely one-sided on Wario and Waluigi's side, where like they've been dedicating their whole life trying to one up Mario and Luigi. Mario and Luigi don't even know who they are. Like, I think that would be really funny, and I think that would be a really good way to introduce the characters. I really hope we get Daisy too in later films, because like I think I would really love to see how they do the relationship between her and Luigi. And I've seen people question, like, since they've made Peach more of a like active character, a bit more like, not quite tomboyish, like as some people tend to describe Daisy, but a bit more like, people be saying how they feel like some traits of Daisy were given to Peach in this. And like, I feel like what they're gonna do to separate Daisy from Peach is like, one, lean more into like sort of the tomboyish aspects of Daisy, but also I think one would be really deal is they make her more like manic and high energy and like high strung. Because not only do I think, not high strung, but like very like, because like people have been like making these jokes of Daisy, of she's very loud and active. They use certain voice clips in the game, so I think that if they use that idea for the movies too, where she's just a super hyperactive, loud, energetic, tomboyish woman, I think that would work great, and it would contrast her really well with Luigi, which I think would make the relationship even more fun to watch. But yeah, that's how I kind of hope they do Daisy if she shows up in future movies. And lastly, I hope Rosalina shows up in future stuff, because I definitely think they're hinting at her with like Peach's line about the universe, and like the Luma showing up. Like, I was honestly expecting, based on the Luma in the trailer and Peach's line about the galaxy being bigger, that Rosalina would show up in the climax. Like, maybe I thought like maybe like Bowser's plot had something to do with Rosalina, and the stuff she was trying to protect. So maybe like what would happen in the end is Rosalina would show up to rescue her loom and like throw a huge wrench into Bowser's like world conquest plans. Of course, that's not what happened in the film, and like I think it's probably best they didn't do that because like what they did here instead works a lot better. But I definitely think they're hinting at Rosalina, so I really hope she shows up in a future movie. But yeah, love this film. Super fun. If you like Mario and Luigi, if you just love the characters of the Mario world, or if you just have like an interest in them, and if you enjoy the games, definitely check out this movie. It'll be a fun time. And if you're not super into Mario either, I definitely recommend like giving this film a watch once because it'll be a fun time. I definitely think you'll enjoy it. And yeah, I cannot wait to see what they're gonna do in like future films, how they handle other characters, and how they continue stuff. And I'm very interested to see what they'll do with Yoshi because I feel like they're definitely gonna do the angle of like Yoshi being like a pet dog to Mario and Luigi because that's sort of how Yoshi's often portrayed in other material. But yeah, it would be cute. Yeah, anyway, thank everybody for watching my podcast. If you liked this and want to see more of my work, you can check out the other episodes of my podcast and also subscribe to my channel. Please leave a like and a comment if you do. It's always appreciated. And see you guys again next time. Have a wonderful day, and remember, still don't have an ending catchphrase. Sorry, guys. Bye!